Tonight, I'd like to call the regular meeting of La Junta City Council to order. Today is May 5th, 2025. The time is now 6 p.m. If you'll all rise for our invocation. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather in service and purpose. Grant us wisdom in our decisions, humility in our discussions, and the unity in our efforts for the good of all we represent. Guide our hearts and minds, and bless our community always. Amen. If you'll stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Schofield, roll call, please.
Ramirez,
Present.
Velasquez, Stoker,
Present.
Ayala,
Here.
Ochoa,
Here.
Montoya,
Here.
Rickoff.
Here.
All right, so we are going to start with some community recognition. We have two for community recognition tonight, and this is a really good thing for our community because there's a lot of stuff going on all the time, and anytime we have a chance to celebrate something or someone, we need to take every opportunity we can to do that. So the first person we're going to celebrate this evening is Zoe Montoya. She is a senior at La Junta Senior High School, and she has been selected as a recipient of the prestigious Becher Foundation Scholarship. Each year, 2,000 graduating high school seniors across Colorado apply for this highly competitive scholarship, with only 50 students selected based on their academic excellence, leadership, service, and character. Zoe's achievement places her among the top 2.5% of applicants statewide. The Becher Scholarship provides $20,000 per year for 4 years, along with additional institutional aid, allowing recipients to attend any accredited Colorado university without significant financial burden. Zoe plans to attend Colorado State University in Fort Collins to study biological sciences and science communication, and we are confident she will continue to make a positive impact in our community and beyond. Congratulations, Zoe. Thank you for all you do in this community. So those of you who are watching, you have seen Zoe at council before. She did a science project with Everett on tarantulas, and that you guys make it to national?
International.
Yeah.
International.
Yeah. So if you want to just talk a little bit about this and a little bit more about yourself, because you only gave me a short bio. So.
Oh, I am a short person. A little bit about me. I'm obviously very grateful to be here. My family is joining me today. Love them very much. And I gave you pretty much what I had. I'm going to CSU Fort Collins. I'm an artist, so I also have art at Otero Arts Festival for the last 4 years, writing and fine arts. And yeah, I'm just really excited to not excited to leave La Junta, but excited to find new things and new places and people.
Well, you enjoy all those new things, and if you're ready to come back after you're all done with that, we'd love to have you back here too.
Yeah, thank you again.
No problem. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Now for this next community recognition, I went to go pick up a prescription at the pharmacy, and I got to hear a lot about this award, but he didn't send me an email like Zoe did. So Bob Fowler, if you want to come up and tell us about your award. This is, as I understand, is a nationwide thing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I was quite surprised. Anybody knows I love being a pharmacist, and that's basically what it is. I knew earlier I'd been nominated by my district manager for the entire western region of the United States, and she said, "That's what you got." I said, "Well, look at that. I go, man, I only get to do what I love to do as a pharmacist. I don't expect any reward, and all and there was kind of an interview with it of where you've seen pharmacy go. I said, wow, I saw it from delivering on a bicycle down here on 3rd and Colorado to
talking to the microphone so we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I have worked at a community drugstore and a long way from typing with a typewriter and gum back labels you put on a bottle and delivering the bicycle to see us go to computers and after college and all the changes and the big amount of patient counseling and taking care of families to where now we do the the testing for strep and flu, and then we're able to prescribe for that. And now they've added prescribing even birth control pills for people that have not made it to the doctor. And all this has changed over all these years, and I loved every piece of it because I love taking care of people. You know, that's all I've done since actually I had part of the interview was I started doing it when I was 13. So as of right now, I've worked in drugstores here in the Valley for 62 years. Pretty amazing. I'm just, you know, what a gift that I was given. So I was a little surprised. So they called and said, you got it for the Western region. I said, well, that's really nice. You look at all the pharmacists in the country, and even in this entire Western region, from my district manager and then our divisional manager, and when they showed up last week, this was really nice. You know, it is for the Southwest and West region, and it's called the Pharmacist Excellent in Patient Care. Well, then sure enough, they come up with this one, and our regional nominated me through Bentonville, and I got this for the entire nation. And you think about that, here we are in Little La Junta, and there are over 6,000 pharmacists in the country, and this is really an award for our community. I don't look at this just for me, I look at it for the entire community because I have been blessed to have talents to do what I get to do, but I've been further blessed because I've been able to do what I love to do here in our community. And so I think this is an award for our community as well as me, that has given me the opportunity to come back to my hometown and practice and do what I love to do. So this really is for the whole community. I can't say it's just for me. I really appreciate the award, but I never did anything for the award. I did it because I love taking care of people and love being a pharmacist, and that's just pretty humbling and pretty honorable to get to do this. And I will be going to Bentonville in June, and the regional, he won't be there. My boss didn't get there and said, well, be prepared. You're going to have to talk to some of the big shots. And I'm going, I'm just a little Bob from Lahana. It's nothing. And so it is. But this, I really consider this award for all of us. This is because I've been able to do what I love to do, and that's a whole piece. This is really an award for our whole valley and community. So I was pretty honored, and it's a big honor, and it's pretty humbling to get this kind of award because I would have never expected it. Because I just get to go do what I want to do, and you know, that's pretty nice. But that's what that is. It's for, and it's called the Pharmacist Excellent in Patient Care. And so there were other people's comments. So I'm really glad to share it with the whole valley, and it is for all of us, not just me. So pretty nice. And I had I had to do about an hour and a half interview with a regional guy. And I said, you know, part of it is now since I started on a bicycle all those years ago, part of it I've taken care of 5 generations of some families. And that's very humbling. I mean, who would have thought that those families would trust me as all of these things have changed from just lick and stick and type and count to what we're doing today. That's been a big change, and I like those changes, and I've been very appreciative to get to roll through those. So that's why it's great to live here in Lahana in our little Arkansas Valley. It's a great place to be from and to still be here and see all the things even you guys do for us. So thank you very much for letting me be here. This is an award for all of us here in the Valley because we left.
We're blessed with you.
Well, I'm pretty honored, you know, and you look at those things that I've gotten to do with all the other fun things I've gotten to do here in this valley. Part of it is people have to trust you. And I've always looked at it as God gave us somebody gives some talents, you have to use them. I'm grateful that he gave me a bunch, you know, and I've been able to develop them. But you have to do the right things to take care of people. So that's part of this reward. If you don't do the right things, you don't get that trust. And so you have to earn that trust taking care of people. And that's really what it is. It's a two-way piece that you have to earn that. It's not something that's given, and you just take care of people like family. And it's pretty simple. And so it's been a blessing to take care of everybody I have. So thanks for letting me be here and sharing with part of your reward.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Good job. Congratulations. Okay, Zoe, since he talked that long, now you have to come back up and mention. All right, moving on. Minutes of the previous meeting. I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. And that passes unanimously. Citizen participation for non-agenda items only. Please come to the front, state your name for the record and your address. Going once, going twice. All right. Moving on. Reports. Martin Montoya. Please come to the front, sir. You better speak into the mic, too.
I'll see what I can do. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I've been asked to come here tonight to talk about the vacant property ordinance. We've had some concerns a lot lately since we just started enforcing this. Just a little background, the ordinance was actually passed in 2017. We didn't start enforcing this ordinance till about mid-2023. About that same time, we just had, the council had approved the new zoning ordinance, which ties into this vacant property ordinance, which I'll be talking about tonight. So I'll be talking kind of about both of them because they work hand in hand. If at any point anybody has questions, feel free to ask away.
And just FYI for everybody, Melanie gave us copies of what Martin's going to be going over right here.
So yeah, you have a copy of the ordinance and then a copy of the schedule of uses for zoning.
Did we bring extra for anyone that wants
Yes.
it? And if you guys want one to follow along, we have some up here. You never know how many people you're going to get, but I always liked. Just pass it. Mike, yeah.
What's up?
If anyone wants one out there. You guys want one? I just like us all to be on the same page. So. Unfortunately, those watching can't view it right now, but we can put it online after. It's already online.
It's on the website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, yeah. So get to your City of La Junta website and pull it up.
That is correct. The ordinance is obviously with the municipal ordinances. And then the schedule of uses you can find with the zoning, which is part of the ordinance as well. So I'm going to try to make some hot links to that on the streets or engineering webpage so that people can just click on it and find that stuff immediately. So I am working on that. So to start off, the vacant property ordinance does involve both residential and commercial buildings. It was basically designed to deal with blight homes and buildings, and then also make sure that we're making the most use out of all of our houses, all of our homes, all of our buildings, to make those available for residents and businesses. The vacant property talks about buildings that are unoccupied, unsecured, and most importantly, talk about vacant buildings. Vacant buildings are significantly below, or it can be defined as significantly below standard utility usage. They can also be sought out by seeing overgrown or dead vegetation, accumulation of trash, junk, or debris, abandoned vehicles, absence of items that show obvious habitation. So that's how we go about finding out if these homes are vacant. But most importantly, we can use utility usage to target some of these. And basically, we don't try to determine if one is about average. We just look for no utility usage, either water or electricity. If we find no utility usage, we then start digging in to find out if it's being used to be lived in or used as a commercial building. If we do see and determine that something is vacant, they are required to come in and register with the city of Lahaina and the engineering department. Technically, they are supposed to come in and register 90 days after the building is vacant. Or you can come in 30 days after receiving a notice from the engineering department. Once that is determined, whenever you come in and fill out a registration, you have to give us your plan for what you plan to do with the property. In the ordinance, it talks about two different things, either demolition, if it is a blight, or what you plan to do as far as rehabilitation and returning that to the appropriate occupancy or use. There are a few exemptions to this. One of them is if you have an active building permit for the building, you are then exempt for a matter of time for as long as the building permit is active and is in use. Once it becomes finished, which at that point we would hope that the building is doing the things that are under the building permit, then you wouldn't, I would assume at that point you would either sell it or move into it or do what you're gonna do with it. Another exemption is fire damage, and they're only exempted for about 90 days before you have to come up with a plan for demolition. And the other is if it's for sale with the licensed realtor. So how the engineering department is going about this is once we've determined the property to be vacant, we issue a vacant property notice. We mail these to the owners. At that point, if you receive a vacant property notice, we would ask that you come into the engineering department and talk to us about what your plans are for the property. For a residential property, you have to either be renovating it or rehabilitating it to fix it up to live in yourself, to rent it, or to sell it. We have been giving the engineering department an automatic 6 months to begin work on these properties. At that time, I do schedule a meeting with them on the property so I can take pictures of the property and make sure that we have those all put into our computer system so that we can then go back and schedule a 6-month date after that to go back and take a look at the property and make sure that improvements are being done. So anybody in this position will have all that information for them in the system at any point in time. After 6 months, we just want to make sure that they've made significant improvements or appropriate improvements to the building, and then we can look at possible extensions at that point. For commercial buildings, does anybody have any questions about residences? For commercial buildings, there's a couple different things here. A lot of the commercial buildings we've been finding vacant are due to utility usage. Once we find out a building is vacant due to utilities, we obviously send them a letter, and we do have a lot of people that come in and tell us, well, we have our utilities on, they're turned on and we're paying for utilities. But that doesn't prevent you from having a vacant building. It just means that you're not using it, is all that means. And that people think by having utilities on at either a residence or a commercial building means that they're exempt then from this, but that's not the case.
They're probably thinking about dormant fees.
Well, that's definitely true. Yeah, you wouldn't have dormant fees if you had utilities on, but then at that point, we try to find out what they're using it for, and I know a lot of people have been using vacant buildings, or not what we would consider vacant buildings, but people go and they buy these buildings, commercial buildings, and they use them for their personal use. They're storing their personal cars in them and that kind of thing, which is obviously then at that point against the zoning, because zoning doesn't allow for storage in any of the zones, at least in that capacity. I've had a number of people come in and say, well, I'm storing my vehicles in there, or I really wanted to save this building for when I retire so I can work on my cars and that kind of thing. But these buildings that are in these zones are designated for specific uses, which you can see on the special use table that I gave them, schedule of uses, I apologize. On this, basically, it gives you a list of everything that a building can be used for according to its zone. So when the people go out and buy these buildings, commercial buildings, and try to use them for their personal use, they're basically violating the R zoning rules. So I have to let them know that they can't just use a building for whatever they want.
And
So,
wasn't it that a lot of buildings were owned around here by people that didn't even live here, so they're just paying the taxes on them and using them as a tax write-off, and so we were trying to get away from that to,
that is indeed very possible. There is a number, there's a number of people, I'm glad that we've had a lot of people actually come in and talk to us and try to make this right, but we've had a lot of people that don't come in at all and just keep paying the fees, which I'll go over here in just a minute. But we do get a few people in here that are kind of irate, thinking that they can use any building that they want, regardless of the zone, for their own personal usage. And then the next item that I'd like to talk about is companies or businesses using other commercial buildings besides their own for storage. This is also not allowed. Storage is, warehouses are allowed in our industrial zone, which is actually not inside, it's more out of the industrial park. They are conditional in C1, but then that would have to be approved through the planning commission. But a warehouse is a building that was designed to be a warehouse. So that means you can't buy another building and turn it into a warehouse. It was never designed to be a warehouse. So in other words, the buildings that are existing were all meant to be storefront properties, commercial businesses used in that capacity. So we have several businesses in this community that purchased other commercial buildings and using them for storage. So we issue vacant property notices to these buildings as well. Obviously, they're vacant, they're not being used for the correct zoning, and this has kind of been a big issue in my office.
So what is the recourse for that?
So essentially what I tell these business owners is that I give them a schedule of uses, and that they're welcome to do anything that's allowed within their zone that's on this schedule of uses. It's not for me to say what they can or cannot do, but the zoning rules tell them what they can and cannot do. So I always give them this and tell them that their options are anything that are on the schedule or the schedule of uses. If they can't do something on the schedule of uses, they may want to consider selling it, or I'm not sure.
Monetarily wise, penalties, what are the penalties?
Okay, so the fees, they start out at $250 for the first year and increase $250 each additional year to a maximum of $1,000 each year.
There's also ways they can work with you to get that into the proper zoning, correct? When I say proper, like what it's intended for. So like if a business was using it as a storage, for example, if they were to put a storefront inside of it, or certain things like that, you would help them just to say what would be allowed, correct?
Yes. So again, I don't believe the purpose of this is for collecting fees, obviously. The purpose of this is to try and get as many storefronts out there and used properly. And it's same with residences. So if they come in and they tell me, this is my plan and I want to work towards this, I'm going to work with these people all day long, because I don't care about the fees. They don't mean anything to, I don't believe, to the city or this department. But as long as they come in and work with the engineering department to get to something that's acceptable for their zone, then I'm more than happy to work with them, as is the city.
And then can you tell us how many vacant properties you found since starting this?
So at this current time, we have 93 issued vacant property violations for residential properties and 25 for commercial. That doesn't mean we have all of them. I know we don't, but we're constantly working at trying to determine what other ones out there are vacant and finding more and more every day.
there were 25.
Mike?
25 commercial.
There were 25 commercial
Yes.
and 93 were the homes.
Residential. Yes.
So currently, do all these properties have either a dormant fee or utilities to them?
So I can't entirely speak about dormant fees as a the utility department, but utility or dormant fees should be assessed. I believe it's 30 days after a building has, or I guess a building or residence or commercial, is withdraws or stops paying their utilities. So after that 30 days, if no one else has moved into it or doing anything with it, we should be assessing dormant fees. Which is nothing to do with vacant properties at all.
Any other questions for Martin?
So I know this could be a little unique as far as the zoning goes and vacant. So what about, we got a lot of downtown areas that have storefronts, but with apartments upstairs, how does that apply if, say, the apartments are occupied, but the storefront or business below is completely vacant?
Or vice versa?
Or vice versa?
So, I mean, there are, residences are allowed in our C1 and C2. So that if I can kind of try to get you to picture, everything along the highway would be considered a CS. Almost everything right behind CS is C1, and C2 is kind of our downtown area. Okay, so residences are allowed in every single one of those zones. So we can have, and it's perfectly fine to have those apartment buildings upstairs. But if that front, the storefront, or if is not being used, then it's considered vacant.
But if the apartment's not being used, that wouldn't be vacant, right? That would never get flagged.
They would still be vacant properties because the apartments, if they're not being used, not being rented is different, but not being used at all, that would still be considered vacant property.
So it'd be like a split?
It would still go to whoever the owner is. They would get a vacant property notice.
Did that answer your question, Jeremiah?
Sure. And again, if somebody's actively renting it out and they don't have tenants, or if they're wanting to rent a home or selling a home, again, that's not something we are going to enforce, obviously, at that point. But if it's just completely vacant and they're not doing anything to use it in any capacity, they would be issued a vacant property notice.
Two things. I just want to say thank you to both you and Marilyn in your office.
I couldn't tell if it was okay there.
I appreciate your responsiveness, and you've been great at answering questions about it. Also, just want to tell people, if they're sitting at home wondering, how do I know what I'm zoned? The most efficient way to do it is just Google La Junta, GIS. It takes you to the GIS page, which I promise is hours and hours of fun, searching all the maps for La Junta. But the third map down is the zoning district. And you can just put in an address of a property that you're curious about, and it lines up with the schedule of uses, and that is the source. There's a lot of sources that will tell you what various properties are, but as Martin and I have discussed, La Junta is the primary. It doesn't matter what the county says it is or the state says it is. It's what the city says it is for the purposes of our ordinance. So
That's correct. The county does sometimes have a different
land
zone
use.
or maybe a plan for what properties may be, but ours overrides theirs. So whatever our zoning is what is correct. And as she stated, we do have a website that's very easy to navigate. It's very nice. You can, like she said, you can type in any address and pull it up. It'll tell you the zone that you're in, or you can scroll around, find your property on the map, click on it, and it'll show you the zone, along with other information like ownership, property ownership, and those kind of things.
Hours of
It's a very good tool. It's not actually one I've seen. I'm sure maybe the bigger communities have it, but it's quite surprised to see it here. It's an incredible tool, very useful.
Any other questions on that side of it? You're not going anywhere yet, Martin.
Okay.
And I do want to talk about the nonprofits.
Okay.
And yeah.
So I did want to bring that up. We had a question just about zoning, and Marilyn received a call. I also want to say thanks to Marilyn. Marilyn is awesome. We did have a question about zoning. Marilyn was called about a question regarding nonprofits. If you look at the schedule of uses, if you go down to the, I believe it is, it's under residential business uses. You can see, if you look about fourth from the bottom of that, churches, nonprofits, and religious education buildings. Basically, nonprofits are not allowed in certain zones, and the reason for this is that they don't provide tax money to that district. So essentially, I was talking about this with someone earlier, it's like having a vacant building. They don't produce and they don't contribute the taxes to that district like all the other businesses do. So that it makes it inefficient to have a nonprofit organization within that district. That's why they're not allowed.
And the ones that are there are grandfathered in, correct?
Yes.
So because someone will say, well, this is there, how are you going to say that?
Which again, the new zoning just took place in April of 2023. So this just changed, so that going forward, that everyone has to adhere to this, to the new zoning.
And that was a lot of work. What did that take? A year and a half to be working, and we didn't have one meeting a month. We had several each month.
Yes.
Going over it. And I specifically remember when we discussed churches, nonprofits, and we can't within our business district have them primarily take over down there, but the grandfathered ones in, and I think that's where. And then I think maybe that question to Marilyn was confusing because I don't know, because we group things together kind of in like sense. We're not saying that the nonprofit is a church or a religious, we're saying it's within that group.
Correct. So any nonprofit, if a recycling nonprofit center wanted to start up in our C2 district, we would have to say, sorry, that's not allowed. So that's any nonprofit, exactly.
And thank you for all your hard work on all of this throughout
Absolutely.
the past couple years.
Yeah, so Martin went to our planning commission and said a lot of this, except for this last part. And so that's great, but council is where this information needs to be shared because we get more views on council, and then you guys are the ones that are going to get the questions from the public a lot. So we wanted to make sure that this was available to everyone.
Just one more question. Can you explain the difference between permitted and conditional use? Who decides?
So on the schedule of uses, you have an NP or an NC and P. N is not permitted, C is conditional, and P is permitted. Permitted means you don't have to ask for anybody's permission, you're good to go. C is conditional, and you would have to come to the planning commission, and you would have to ask for permission from the planning commission, who would then vote on whether that would be permitted in a particular zone. So you would probably, I'm just going to encourage, if anyone has any questions about vacant properties or the zoning, please come into the engineering office and we'll be more than happy to explain any of this to you. If at any point you do see that you might be eligible or think you might be eligible for conditional use, come in and see us. We'll get you set up to be put in front of the planning commission and have them have it vote on it.
Any other questions for Martin there? Okay, Martin, I need you to take that engineering land use hat off and tell us about asphalt.
Okay, wonderful, asphalt. Okay, streets department, asphalt. The big change for asphalt this year is that our asphalt provider is now, it's not All Right anymore, is now United, that's correct, thank you. United, right, I can't remember, United. They have changed their policy in that we will no longer get asphalt of any quantities on Thursdays. That's no longer a thing. So in order for us to get asphalt, we have to order 60 tons or more for them to fire up. I can tell you right now that most of our patching jobs take 3 to 10 tons, 20 max. We never have a 60-ton job unless we're flat out doing a whole new job where we're tearing out a street and replacing a whole street. So what that means is that we just kind of have to be on the watch. We are notified daily of when they are running, so that whenever they do run, we're just gonna have to stop what we're doing, which is a major pain, and do asphalt instead. So that it's kind of not been a fun thing to deal with, but a new thing. Second thing is asphalt isn't provided in the winter. I know some people think that during the winter we can just, people are wondering, why aren't we out there fixing the asphalt? Why aren't we out there fixing the asphalt? We don't have it. We have a mix called a cold mix, which we go and we try to fill into some potholes, like especially the big ones that are really bad. And that may last, it may not. It's not the best stuff, but it's definitely there to help us get through the winter. And then obviously even through the rest of the year whenever asphalt's not provided on Thursdays anymore. So they just started making asphalt generally in April. So when people are like wondering why aren't my things being fixed, the biggest reason is we just got asphalt in April. After that, we do the best we can with the jobs with the concerns that people have called in. We'll start working on those things, and then obviously the major stuff. Does anyone?
Oh, I have questions. So how much is asphalt per ton?
It is, I believe, $105 a ton.
And we have to order 60 ton at a time?
Yes.
Okay. And roughly, what is it, just your average city block, what would it be to tear up that asphalt, put down new, roughly? I know there's lots of factors in there, but we're just trying to get the folks listening at home kind of an idea of what it actually costs.
So when we redid Carson, we did 4 blocks, and that cost us about $150,000 for 4 blocks. So what is that? Approximately $50,000 a block, probably. But we also did replace some base, which that's something that we have to do. If a street doesn't have the correct foundation, we have to replace it with what it should need. So it's very, very expensive.
And that eats up a lot of your budget, doesn't it, Martin?
All of it, pretty much. Yeah.
And when he talks about the cold mix that they have, it usually lasts if the weather is just cold. If you get any type of moisture, snow, anything like that, it's gone. It's so they do fix a lot of them during the winter as best they can. But once you get any type of weather, you can't tell that they fixed it, and it's right there again.
That's true. Very true. Does anybody have any questions about the asphalt part of it? I just wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming projects that we do have coming up. We're getting ready to work on June 2nd. We'll begin our project at Conley Road, which is around Walmart. I know everybody's gonna love that. The Walmart entrance on the highway will be closed both ways for approximately, we're hoping it'll take us about a week. We're gonna go in, rip out the current asphalt from the highway to Rogers Road, which is the first stop sign. And we're gonna replace it with a much thicker asphalt layer and then replace the base if needed. After we finish Conley Road, we plan on fixing 6th Street over here by the library. That'll be the next project after that. And then after that, we are gonna work with the county on replacing 2nd Street, which is in front of the jail. After saying that, I just wanna say thanks to the county. The county has been tremendous. They've been a very amazing partner to work with. The county commissioners, Tim Noggenshoe and Rob Oquist, have been amazing to work with. Lex Nichols and Darren Garcia have been absolutely wonderful, helping us with the equipment we don't have, helping us with trucks. When we pave streets, they come out and they help us transport the asphalt to the paver when we're paving. They've been absolutely amazing and a wonderful partner.
Is that going to have curb and gutter
On 2nd Street?
Yeah.
So I will say that on Conley, we are going to do curb and gutter to CDOT's right away. They would not allow me to do curb and gutter all the way out to the highway. They would only allow us to go up to the right of way. On Second Street, I asked the county if they would work with us on possibly contributing to the cost of curb and gutter on the north side of Second Street. They were open to that. They're trying to work on getting money from a grant that I believe Tim Nobbins knows about, and is trying to see if he can get even parts of the street paid for, as well as curb and gutter, and even possibly a sidewalk. So I'm waiting for them. I've given them pricing for what all that'll cost. So he's looking into seeing what they can contribute, or what the grant may contribute. And if not, I know that they've already talked about their willingness to work on curb and gutter with the city on that north side of the road.
I have a question. What about the side of 10th Street going up?
Okay, so I didn't mention, those are our big projects. Here in the next, I'm hoping if we have time, if not, we'll have to be pushed back after June. But we have 2 other projects we're working on, and that is one of them. So on 10th Street, we've cut out a section on the north side of the road that we're gonna tear out. We're gonna asphalt from the road over to the sidewalk. Hopefully that'll help us. If it should flood again, the water should go over the sidewalk instead of undermining it and taking out the sidewalk. So, and then on the other side, we're gonna go about 4 feet to the south and pave that as well.
Okay.
So that's coming up hopefully in the next couple weeks. That may be pushed off, I'm not sure. The other project is the park. On the west side of the park, we're going to go through, clean that up, and re-asphalt and patch it up so that it's nicer, because it's in pretty bad shape. So those are our other 2 projects.
Which
So
part?
The
City park?
The city park, yes.
And then if someone had a pothole that they were concerned about, Martin, what would you suggest they do?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. You're more than welcome to call the engineering office, but we also have a form on our website under the engineering tab that allows you to fill out a form. What we do once we get that form via email, we automatically put that into the system, into our work orders, and send that to the street department, and then it's tracked in our system what potholes we're getting, when they're fixed, with a date timestamp.
It's pretty cool. Thank you, Martin.
Yes, sir.
And this might be part of Michael's report, but what is going on 6th Street?
So they had, they're basically their water line is bad, and now they're replacing it. So
Okay.
they initially fixed it, they're fixing it.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later, but go ahead. It didn't matter to me.
Yeah, they're basically replacing it, and then we'll go through asphalt.
Okay.
So
Basically, the issue with that, and that was part of my report later, but things that we're talking about right now, they go in to start making a repair, and they found more wrong, and more wrong, and more wrong, and more wrong. So it's just kind of a systemic thing that they're trying to fix, but the problem keeps getting bigger and bigger. Is basically what's going on.
And in addition to that, after they do a repair, it has to take so long to settle before you guys can actually put the asphalt on top. Otherwise, it'll mess all up, right?
yeah, they have to definitely compact it right, or we're gonna have issues. But they'll compact their part of it, their holes that they dig. Then we'll go over the top, replace the base, compact it the way we need to compact it for the street. So, and then I guess the only other thing I'd like to talk about is the signs. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed the new signs out and about, but we have a number of streets that now have street signs. We've replaced a number of street poles. We've added a few stop signs on some major streets that were having some crash issues. But just recently, they replaced all the poles on San Juan and Colorado. So we used to have these old green poles. A lot of people probably saw or have seen, and you might have seen the poles at an angle. Some of the stuff looked really bad. But the poles were called U-channel poles. Well, we're replacing all those old poles with a 2-inch by 2-inch square metal pole. That is also has a breakaway at the bottom. So if anybody hits it, the sign breaks away. They look much cleaner, much better, and are safer for traffic.
And what has that done to your sign budget, Martin?
Well, my sign budget hasn't been the best, but we do what we can with what we have. But This year, one of the first things I almost do every single year in January is I automatically start buying new signs and replacing stuff that we have there. So I've already burned through all of the sign budget for this year, but I think we've done a lot.
It looks really good.
A lot of signs, and I think it's really, in my opinion, I think it's cleaning up the city.
It's been a while since we heard that song. Any other questions for Martin? No? Thank you so much, Martin.
For all you do. Are you going to be in a meeting right now?
What's that?
Are you leaving?
No, I'll sit there.
I guess you're not leaving now, Martin. All right, moving on. Mrs. Harris.
All right. First, well, no, there's only one piece of unfinished business, I guess. This is the second reading, which has that mouthful title. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of La Junta, Colorado, repealing and replacing Chapter 10.04 of the La Junta Municipal Code and adopting a new Chapter 10.04 of the La Junta Municipal Code to adopt the 2024 edition of the Model Traffic Code. Whew, sounds like fun. Remember though, what this is designed to do is to update the model traffic code that we are using from 2010 to 2024. The last time that we had adopted it was in the 2010 code.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make approval. Move approval.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. And that passes unanimously. Mrs. Harris?
The next is new business, and this is, there is an application for a tavern license, or tavern liquor license by New Venture LLC, which does business as the Strike and Play. First, that's notable, this means that the Strike and Play, as you might remember from previous meetings, is the bowling alley. So the bowling alley is applying for a new liquor license, but we would need to set a hearing for that. So City Clerk Ms. Schofield, is there a date scheduled for that hearing?
I have them scheduled for June 16th.
Okay, and on that June 16th date, will they be here?
Yes.
All right. Since we only have to schedule that, I don't think there's any action that needs to be done so long as everyone is informed that there will be that hearing on the 16th. I'll move on then to the next, which is letter B, the resolution opposing new annexations by the City of Colorado Springs that increases its water supply gap. First, before we start, we all remember that Jack Goebel was here at the last council meeting. And he described the definition of a supply gap as in the amount of water that the city has and the projected amount of water that the City of Colorado Springs might need. So the resolution is essentially saying that the City of La Junta is aware that when Colorado Springs grows, it creates an incentive for that city to look to our region to take water. But of course, the water that's here, that's privately owned water rights. So the resolution is more an opportunity for the council to demonstrate recognition of a very difficult issue.
All right, do you have a motion?
I motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just want to echo what Aaron just said, in that the resolution is definitely not addressing any individual property owners. It is just being resolved that we ask City of Colorado Springs to be thoughtful about their growth and remember that we're on the other end of the pipeline with that growth. But it does not impact any private property owners' decisions or us giving our opinion about what they should do with their own property. And I think it's important to note that, so thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. And that passes unanimously. Mrs. Harris.
Next, this is a first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of La Junta to adopt rules concerning use of automated Vehicle Identification Systems, otherwise called AVIS. Once again, I assume everyone remembers when we had the discussion here about using an AVIS system. This statute or ordinance that we are introducing is meant to be compliant with this state statute relating to the same thing. But at this point, my discussions with Police Chief Todd Quick have indicated that we are going to be working with what the statute permits without making special identification of what are called speed corridors. So you will have noticed in the statute, if you reviewed it, that there's a place where it says none at this time. Identifying a specific speed corridor according to the state statute would require us to take additional action where we would be in touch with the Colorado State Patrol, with the CDOT to understand transportation patterns, and we would have to have 5 years of data that we would be contemplating before we voted in a special corridor. So at this time, Chief Quick and I suggested that we would make the AVIS statute in general available for your consideration, with the recognition that there is that additional piece that could be considered with additional research.
All right, do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
I have a motion, to have a second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I'll just point out, like, I think the ordinance is good, especially there's a part where no vendor will accept fines that are generated, you know, just the cost of buying it. But like I've said before previously, it's really got to be to where we look at the budget as whether or not we can pay that money for the budget. You know, when we just heard about how much our streets cost. So I think that's got to be a lot of considerations before we actually implement a program with purchasing such equipment. And, you know, hopefully we can plan this out in the budget.
Well, if I could just speak to that for a moment. I don't remember if the representative from the company might have been here on a day that you were not here, but my discussion with Chief Quick has been that initially we would be using an AVIS system, but it would be the handheld device that is actually provided at no cost. So the handheld device that would be employed for the at least initial phase of this AVIS system would not be of any cost to the city. Now, you also pointed out something else that I believe ought to be given some attention. State statute does not allow any AVIS system to actually be so that the system were paid for through revenue generated from tickets. In other words, much of what we did here, if you remember back several months ago, there was a presentation about a speed trailer. And you might recall that during that time, we learned that the price would go up based on the number of tickets that might be written. Since that time, Colorado has incorporated new laws that does not, and the new law in Colorado does not permit that kind of billing. So billing now for any AVIS program would need to be a flat fee. It cannot be associated with the number of tickets generated or the revenue brought in.
I just have one question. Was the handheld considered AVIS?
Well, that's a discussion. Chief Quick and I discussed it. My belief in the interpretation of it is that it is still, because remember, the way that it was initially described to us is that the AVIS program would permit the officer to assess the speed of multiple vehicles and would not require that officer to then determine the speed manually and then write the ticket manually. So the whole automatic vehicle identification is still happening with the handheld, because the AVIS system is reading the license plate and making that identification and generating the ticket without the officer having to do so. Now, you're absolutely right that there's another way of interpreting it, so that and there are some municipalities who are interpreting that the handheld device, because it is held by a member of law enforcement, that it is distinguished from a camera that's mounted, let's say, on a traffic light, so that it's monitoring traffic as the traffic drives. The argument there is that by being held, the handheld part means that it is not AVIS in the same way. At this point, if we have this statute in place, we don't need to make that determination. If we were going to claim that we did not need this ordinance and we still plan to use those LiDAR guns, we would have to argue that they were not automated in the way that an AVIS system would make that definition.
So if it comes back later and says that they are AVIS, we're already ahead of it because
We
we've
are.
already passed it now.
That's right.
If that's
Exactly, yes.
any other discussion?
So it'll take 2 readings to pass this, I'm assuming. I feel like we've had a lot of conversations. I still have a lot of questions. I've heard a lot of pushback from the community on the conversations that we have had, and I would really like Chief Quick to be here when we have the second reading to answer some of the questions that we have as a council. I think that is reasonable, just from some of the questions other people have had as well. We haven't heard from him in any of the conversations that we've had.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. And that passes with 4-2. Yep. All right. You done, Mrs. Harris? Yes? Committee and board reports. No Paul and no senior centers. Anyone else have?
No, not yet.
Not yet. We did have a conduit work session. Well, Michael was gone too. And then we're going to have another meeting. Did we decide what day is that? Monday the 12th, right here in council chambers. So that has been posted, correct? So if anyone wants to learn about the Arkansas Valley Conduit, I encourage you to attend that meeting. Moving on, Mr. Hart.
Yes, sir. All right, a couple things the PD has going on. They'll be doing some firearms training next week. Then toward the end of the month, they have the advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement training that's going to be going on. Kind of the cool thing with all these different trainings that we have going on here in the area, it's bringing all sorts of different agencies to our area. A lot of collaboration going on between the different agencies. Plus, we hope they stop and have a bite to eat and fill their tank up before they go too. The purchasing for the purchasing department, we are still open for bids for the structure to cover the new dewatering equipment. If you all remember previously, the dewatering equipment is a fancy way to say the poo press. That was supposed to open up on Wednesday. However, there have been, I promised Jennifer I would say poo press at the council, so.
You just want to bet, didn't you?
Yeah, anyway.
Right.
Well, it doesn't double the reward, but whatever. The bids are supposed to be opened up on Wednesday. However, we have none at this time. So it's been posted out everywhere for the last couple of weeks. So if we don't get any bids come Wednesday, we'll probably be looking to extend that because it's definitely something we need to have built. So if anybody's watching at home, wants to put a bid on it, please do so. May 1st, there was a system-wide planned outage at 4 a.m. It ended up being a little longer than anticipated, but everything is good to go more or less. Elections will be working down a little bit for the next couple of weeks. They got some linemen down at the Mesa Hotline School in Grand Junction. HR, we had 57 applications this summer for the pool. We've hired 25 lifeguards and 9 cashiers to fill that, which I was very surprised, very happy to hear that there was plenty of applications to fill those spots. 'Cause I know there's lots of municipalities that have jobs like that over the summer that they struggle trying to get folks in there, and when they struggle to get folks in there, then their pools are delayed and stuff like that. Then all the fun's not had by all the people. Water department, we just talked a little bit about over here on 6th Street, what's going on. Like I said, they got in there and just one problem led to another, and that's why it's kind of dragging on a little longer than they had planned for it to. But Tom did say they are on top of it. Over at the RO plant, there's a few failures here and there that happened, temporary failures that happened during the May 1st outage. They were able to get all that stuff figured out and back online, so nothing to worry about there. Fire department, they burned, fire department didn't burn, let me back up. There was a 116-acre fire over there in the river bottom behind Ben's Fort, right? Like Fahrenheit 451 stuff, right? They were able to get that taken care of. Chief Davidson was super appreciative of all of the mutual aid that they had on that. They said it started from a truck tire that blew out and some hot pieces of tire set it off and you got it going. I do want to say that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I think this is a great opportunity for folks to check on their people. Mental health awareness is a real thing, and it should be taken very serious. With that in mind, let me pull up this little picture I have. Valleywide is going to be doing a Children's Mental Health Day. That's going on this Wednesday over at City Park from 5 to 7. Lots of family fun activities, mental health resources, hot dogs for the first 200 people. So I encourage everyone to go out and take part of that as well. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to Glenwood Springs, take part in the Colorado City County Managers Association, CCCMA Association, their annual conference. I was able to make lots of good contacts, lots of good networking, and I'm slowly putting the state of Colorado together based on where people work and where I have contacts at now. So I do appreciate the opportunity that you allow me to go and be a part of that. Like I said, lots of good information, lots of good things that I'm able to bring back and hopefully incorporate here to the city in due time. And unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Howard? Good job, Michael. All right, I almost adjourned this governing body comment. Almost, Jeremiah. We're almost there.
Well, I guess I'll start it off. Put this out now, we've kind of put it around, but Lahana Elks Lodge is holding the annual fishing derby Saturday, May 24th at the City Park Pond. And in case you can't remember that date, it is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Sign-ups from 8 o'clock to 8:30 with the fishing 11:30 a.m. till 11. And this is for children ages 5 to 15 that are able to fish on their own. And I'd like to thank Colorado Bank and Trust and the Colorado Parks and Wildlife for providing the fish and the prizes. So come join us for a fun day of fishing.
Any other governing body comments?
One more. Go Nuggets.
Just something I thought Michael hit on, maybe Mr. Fred or somebody mentioned last time, but water restrictions go into effect May 15th through October 15th. The restrictions are on there, but it's basically no water use between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that's on public notices, probably on the city website if you have questions about that.
If you have questions, call Martin. Just kidding. Don't call Martin.
A couple things. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, which is awesome and very appropriate that Zoe Montoya was here. I think any teacher who's ever had Zoe, she has a delightful way of making sure that her attitude of gratitude is spread. So Zoe, I'm sure you went home and turned it back on and you're watching us from home, but I just want to say thank you to Zoe for her innovative ways, and she's a fantastic recipient of the Veteran Scholarship, and we're super proud of her. And also thank you to teachers all throughout our town, from early childhood all the way up to Otero. Speaking of Otero graduation is this Saturday. It is bumped up an hour earlier, so if you show up at 10, it might be almost over. So graduation starts at 9 o'clock this year. 219 people will be receiving their degrees or certificates in everything from law enforcement academy, nursing, associate's degrees, and other certificates that are presented by Otero. So, what's that? It's in the gym. the Divic Gym. So, yep, right in the middle of campus, can't miss it. And Ward 3 listening tour next Monday night. We're moving it back outside, back to the Brick and Tile Park, 6 o'clock, May 12th. Anybody's welcome. And then finally, happy Mother's Day on Sunday to all, but especially to my mom, Linda Johnson, who watches us every time. That's all.
Any other governing body comments? I just want to say thank you to Otero Museum for their wine tasting event. I got to spend the evening with Judge Kolomitz, and I think he might have you there in history of La Junta there, Bob. It's a tie between you two on who's taking over for Don Lohman. But I got a wealth of knowledge. He told me about a mayor 50 years ago who made a decision he didn't agree with. I said, geez, thanks a lot, Judge. Now I'm going to have to worry about that for the next 50 years. Then we also had an Arbor Day celebration for Billy Remick. Adrian was there. He recorded it for SECO News, and I think the district did it too. But it was a great turnout at TTA, and we miss Billy, but we were happy to honor him that day. Other than that, thank you all for coming out tonight, and we will see you at our next meeting. Thanks.